Good evening and a very warm welcome to Tara Institute. As you have noticed from the prayer I recited, the refuge prayer, it's a Buddhist tradition to set a motivation before any teaching, practice or a meditation session. So I would like to begin by inviting you to set your own motivation for this session. Think about why you are here, what brought you here, and what you would like to achieve from this, the time that we are going to spend together, the next hour or so. Whatever be your specific reasons for being here tonight, we could all agree that we are all searching for ways to live happier lives and perhaps be of benefit to others. So this could also perhaps be a motivation for our session tonight. So just take a minute or so to set your own personal motivation. A little bit about myself before I begin. My name is Ashvini, and I've been a student at the Tara Institute for over 10 years now. This is my first time presenting in this manner, so I'm a bit nervous, as you can see. And English is not my first language, so that doesn't help either. So I hope you guys will be patient and together we'll work something out. So as any qualified Buddhist practitioner would tell you, that 10 years is a very small period of time, very short period of time to gain any significant understanding of Buddhist teachings. But I consider myself fortunate that I have received wonderful teachings from our resident Lama here, Venerable Geshe Doga. I don't know whether you've seen him or not, but I really have been very fortunate to receive wonderful teachings from him. And many of his long-time students who have been teaching at this institute for many years now. What I can tell you, however, is that how I choose to live has changed very significantly since in the last 10 years. So I'll try my best to convey some of what my teachers have so kindly taught me, and to the best of my ability. I'll give it my best shot. But I'm open to feedback because this is my first time, so I've left some forms there at the desk there, so if you would like to leave some suggestions, I'll try to incorporate them in the next sessions, next couple of sessions that we have together in December. So, to start with a little bit about Monday nights. I think some of you must be regular visitors here because I've not been coming to these teachings, so I don't know. Is anyone here for the first time? Oh, welcome. So the purpose of Monday nights is to introduce some of the ideas which are discussed in great detail in Buddhist philosophy and psychology. And these Monday nights are open to people of all beliefs. And the aim is for these sessions to be thought-provoking. So Shakyamuni Buddha, the historical Buddha who founded Buddhism 2,500 years ago, said that we must not accept his word by faith alone. We should examine what he has said and test it by our own reasoning. This in itself, I think, is a very important teaching. Because when we hear something and we don't relate it to our personal experience, or we're not test it by our own reasoning, we somehow do not internalize it deeply. And there is no conviction. It might sound like a good thought. We park it somewhere in our mind and just go on with our lives as usual. And we hold that belief until someone or something challenges it. And because the underlying conviction is not so strong, it doesn't stay with us. So having a deep conviction is important for any change. If we aim for any change in the way we think or act, we need to have a very deep conviction, and that cannot come without relating the teachings to our own experience, because everyone has different experiences of life, and also testing it with reason and seeing if something is logical, sounds reasonable, we should accept it. And if it doesn't stand the test of reason, we should put it aside and maybe not accept it. In fact, I can't remember, but the saying that Shakyamuni Buddha said that we should accept his teachings like we test gold. It was rubbing on a stone, or I don't know how, but you test it, and if it is gold, you can keep it, otherwise just discard it. So, in the same spirit, I am hoping that our conversation today, our session here, will trigger some discussions, and we have kept some time at the end for discussions. So, you are feel free to accept what you think is logical and discard what you think you can't accept and doesn't seem rational or logical. And collaborating in this way, we could, it'll also help deepen my own understanding of these issues. As I said, I've been only practicing 10 years, and it's a very short period of time, and every time I go to a teaching, I learn something new. There is, a new door that opens. So I'm presenting 3 Monday nights in December, and I'll keep the format very similar, which is we'll have some meditation, we will have a presentation, and followed by discussions. So the topic that we will cover over the next 3 nights is Monday nights is inspired by a quote from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which reads, I'll read it from here: if you would like to be selfish, you should do it in a very intelligent way. The stupid way to be selfish is seeking happiness for ourselves alone. The intelligent way to be selfish is to work for the welfare of others. Very interesting choice of words by His Holiness. The word selfish generally has very negative connotations. And it seems His Holiness is suggesting that there is an intelligent way to be selfish. I thought this quote was very provocative, and kind of alludes that by our nature somehow, or by our habit, we are selfish. So I think there's a lot to unpack in this quote, and as is in all the quotes that His Holiness says, there is a lot contained within these few words. So, and he is proposing a radical way to be happy, which is not something which is counterintuitive. So I thought, in order to understand it, I framed 3 questions. And in hoping to answer those 3 questions, maybe we can get a bit closer to what His Holiness is trying to teach us. And these 3 questions that I framed are, what is happiness? And the thing that we all seem to be looking for, what is it? And where can we find it? I hope to discuss that today. In the second session, the next Monday, we'll talk about what are the obstacles to this genuine happiness? What stops this from arising? And in the final Monday night in December, we'll talk about, is there a way to transform our mind to overcome these obstacles? So, is it really possible? And if so, how can we do it? So hoping that when we find answers to these questions, and using logic and reasoning, perhaps we'll get closer to what the implied meaning here is. Is everyone able to hear me? Am I speaking too fast, or is it okay? Right. Thanks. So I think before we continue, let's meditate together for some time. And the form of meditation that we will do today is a single pointed concentration meditation. And in this type of meditation, we focus our mind on a single object. And it is said that this meditation helps clear and settle our mind. I've read somewhere that if you can hold the concentration for 21 counts or something, you can actually feel the impact. If you can hold it that long, it's very hard for me to do it. But if you can feel that change. So please find a comfortable posture, either on the cushion or the chair, whatever suits you best. So if you are sitting on a chair, it'll help to keep your feet firmly on the ground. And if you're on a cushion, you can sit with your legs crossed, with your hands resting in your lap, right hand on the left and the thumbs together. The idea is to be relaxed yet alert. You can keep your chin tucked in, eyes slightly open to let some light in. Rest your gaze at the ground in front of you. If it works better for you, you can close your eyes. Relax your body and let go of all tension. Paying special attention to your shoulders, your jaw, your neck, wherever you feel tense in your body, just relax and let go. Turn your attention to your thoughts. Drop them, one at a time. Make a determination that for the next few minutes you will devote yourself to the now, to the here, to the present time. The object of our meditation today is our own breath. So bring your attention to your breath. The breath is a celebration to the fact that we are alive. Think, I'm alive, I'm breathing in. To be still alive is a miracle. And as you breathe in, you almost touch that miracle. Now, identify your in-breath as the in-breath and the out-breath as the out-breath. When we breathe in, we know that this is our in-breath. When we breathe out, we are mindful that this is our out-breath. This is an in-breath. This is an out-breath. Very simple, very easy. What is recognizing our breath is our mind. And the object of our mind, the object of our mindfulness, is the in-breath and the out-breath. Whether our breath is short or long, it doesn't matter. What is important is that we follow our in-breath from the beginning to the end. Our awareness is sustained and there is no interruption. Thoughts will arise. It is natural. Recognize this as an interruption and let go of the thought. Gently bring your mind back to the breath, over and over again. we become our in-breath. We become our out-breath. Let's stay in this for a while. Relax your concentration very gently. Bring your mind back to your body, to your room, to this room. Think how wonderful just to have the leisure to practice like this. And let's make a sincere wish to find happiness for ourselves and aspire to become a cause for happiness for all others who come in contact with us. Thank you, and we can now turn to our topic of discussion for today. So, as I mentioned earlier, But before we turn to His Holiness's quote directly, it'll be worthwhile to talk a little bit about happiness. And the question that I would like to discuss with you this evening is, what is happiness and where can we find it? So it gets, the premise of it is why this focus on happiness? Because as you see in His Holiness's quote, and also Buddhist teachings in general talk a lot about happiness. So a lot of Buddhist philosophy and psychology starts with the premise that all of us wish to be happy and all of us wish to be free of suffering. It's indeed very hard to disagree with that. Everyone that we know of, we can accept that all living beings that we have direct experience of ourselves and others, wish to be happy and wish to be free of suffering. We all have this strong and innate wish to be happy. In fact, His Holiness has said that it is not just a wish, but it's a right. We deserve to be happy. It's a right to be happy. It's a right to be happy. And we deserve to be free of suffering. And it is okay to be selfish in that regard. So this basic wish to be happy motivates everything that we do. All our physical and mental activities are driven by this very strong innate wish to be happy. So we can think about all the things we do to try and be happy. We seek an education, we build careers, we amass possessions, we buy houses, cars, we invest in relationships, friends, lovers, we look for sense pleasures, good food, good music. Everything we do, the more adventurous amongst us, they climb mountains or they go bungee jumping or whatever, a holiday on the beach. Everything that we do is driven by this wish to be happy and to be free of suffering. So much activity and so much effort in our lives, all dedicated to finding happiness. So, which is why there is a lot of focus in Buddhism on happiness and trying to find what it is and how we can get it. And it's not just us. All human beings from a Buddhist, all sentient beings, all living beings from a Buddhist perspective, share this fundamental wish. So from our own experience we can see that all forms of life that we know, even a small insect wants to be free of suffering. If it comes in harm's way, it tries to save itself and goes somewhere else. We have a lot of experience with pets, and we know that how much they seek happiness like we do. So this wish is, fundamental wish is shared by everyone. So on the surface, you might see someone who is engaged in, behavior that might be self-destructive in a bad relationship or some bad habits. But they're also pursuing the same desire, same wish, that they want to be happy. But they are doing it in a way that might seem odd or misguided to others. So it's really important to consider and reflect on this, that how universally true it is and how it applies to everyone. There are no exceptions. And how much effort, how much of activity and effort goes into achieving this end. And also good to reflect on what His Holiness has said, that we all of us deserve to be happy. And it's a right to be happy. It is okay to be selfish in that respect. So, that gets us to the next question as to what is happiness? What are we talking about? What is happiness? And given that that we all are, everything we do is governed by this, driven by this wish and desire to be happy. So what is this happiness? And His Holiness has mentioned two levels of satisfaction. And I'm using the word satisfaction here in order to define happiness. The first one is the pleasurable feeling that we get when we come in contact with sensory experiences. So we are all quite familiar with that kind of pleasure. So we can think about pleasure that we get from possessions or wealth. You can think about the time you got a present, the feeling that was, at that moment. The pleasurable feeling, the good feeling that was there. When you bought a new car, or you ordered something online and the package was delivered and you were opening and it was exactly what you wanted. Then we can talk about physical comfort. How nice does it feel to get into a warm bed on a cold evening. And if you've had a tiring day and you had a sore back, and how nice does it feel to get a massage on your neck and shoulders. And so we can all relate to these experiences of pleasure in our day-to-day life. And it doesn't have to be physical. We can talk about praise and nice words said about us. If someone compliments our character, or someone acknowledges the work that we have done at the workplace and says something nice about her, we get a good feeling at that time. And fame and reputation. The satisfaction that we might get from knowing that people think of us as nice people or powerful people, and they want to be close to us because of their perception of us as nice and good people. So the kind of satisfaction that we get from these experiences is something that we can very easily relate to. It's a part of our day-to-day life. So what is common here? All these pleasurable feelings arise when we come in contact with something, a sense stimulus, with something which is external. Or it could be a thought, it could be a memory, it could be a recollection of the experience that we have had. It could be, thinking about a holiday we had some time ago, and we can feel happy about it. So, from my own experience, this is where my pursuit of happiness resides. All my life, this is what I think I have been doing in pursuit of happiness. And you can clearly understand why. Because it is validated by my own experience. So there is no denying that I get a sense of joy when I come into contact with these favorable experiences. So, then all this is validated by my personal experience. So, given that we just talked about that all of us are so hardwired to seek this happiness, and when we experience these sense pleasures, and that wish is gratified, automatically we go on accumulating the conditions which will maximize this. So we feel that I'm getting pleasure because of material possessions. So if I have more of them, I maximize my chances of that pleasure. So we think of happiness as something that will arise if we assemble the right external conditions. So at some basic level of external conditions are essential to our well-being. Life could be very hard if we don't have good health, or we don't have a roof on our head, or we don't have food on the table, and so on and so forth. So, but there is a catch there. This first kind of satisfaction, that is coming from sensory stimulation, by its very nature, we can see it is fragile and it's transient. It cannot be deepened or strengthened in any way, because our interaction with these sense stimulations is transitory in nature. So we could think about all these examples that we used. For example, we talked about possessions. We can all relate to being happy when we got a present, or some desirable material object, a new car, or whatever fancies us. So the feeling we had when we received it, how long before it fades away? The object is still there. How long before it is sitting in some remote cupboard and we have forgotten about it? It's not even an object of it is something that we've completely forgotten about. And it was, at one time, a source of great joy. And we can just look at those in the society who are more fortunate, who have a lot of material possessions and wealth. All we need to think is, are they always happy? It seems it might actually be the opposite. There have been a lot of social experiments, and there have been a lot of observational studies to show that a basic set of external conditions are critical to well-being. But wealth and possessions beyond a certain level do not increase our happiness incrementally. So I think it's something that we can really accept, that something that we acquired once, then we go on acquiring the same object or similar objects again and again. Even if we had the means, they don't remain a source of joy. Then we can think about the other thing I talked about was physical comfort. Talked about the massage at the end of the day. So how long before that massage, it creates, you've had it for an hour or so or whatever, you start to feel numb, and then it becomes irritating, and then finally it could become painful. You just want it to be over. So again, we see that these sensory experiences, our pleasure from them at least fades over time. And that's what I meant by they're transitory. We talked about praise and fame. So we can think about how stable are the opinions of others about us. How quickly can we turn from being someone's best friend or the center of attention to being forgotten or even being loathed. We can think about this phrase, my 15 minutes of fame, where how much time, how much space do we occupy in the mind streams of others? So, and about how does it feel when we rely on the opinion of others for our happiness? If you, I don't know whether you use social media or not, but you must be familiar with the concept of likes. When you post something, and then you're waiting for someone to like it. Number of likes. number of followers, so on and so forth. So, the feeling that you have posted something and you're waiting for someone to like it. How anxiety-inducing can that experience be? So, I'm just trying to contrast these experiences that we think at some times can be joyful, and at the other times they feel not so joyful. So, we could see that all these experiences, that this type of happiness which relies on sensory stimuli is fragile and transient. And because we are hardwired to seek happiness, we continuously look for new stimuli. We want something new to give us that pleasure, to give us that joy. And when we can't find that stimuli, we start feeling restless. So my own relationship with my phone, sometimes I have nothing to do and I am, looking for some stimulus, so I'll keep refreshing that app, waiting for something to come up, or I might loop between 2 or 3 apps and try to see if there is something new. And sometimes it works, I get something interesting, something that I can laugh about. But after some time, it doesn't feel so good, It actually adds to my restlessness. So, to me, this is the shortcoming of this first kind of satisfaction, which we call sometimes happiness, that this is quite shallow. There has to be a deeper and a better happiness that we are all searching for. In the beginning we talked about that we are all hardwired to seek that happiness. This couldn't be it. So, this takes us to the second level of happiness or satisfaction that His Holiness refers to. And I'll read his definition. He describes genuine happiness as a peace of mind, a degree of composure, where external stimuli or even hardships count for little. This deeper level of satisfaction that does not come from external stimuli, but from our own mental state. So, in a Buddhist context, this second level of happiness is referred to as genuine happiness. Now, it's a big leap saying that, from external conditions, we can talk about some mental happiness. And to understand this form of happiness, that it really depends more on our state of mind than on the external world, we can use a couple of examples. And I encourage you to think about something that you can relate to your own experience. And these are very simple examples. I'm sure you'll have dozens of them. But just to get an idea as to what is the role played by our own mind in framing the experience. So, let's think about how the same external conditions or same sensory input can lead to varied mental experiences. So, let's see it across different people. So, if a friend of mine walked into this Gompa just now, and I looked at him, and obviously he's been a friend, and there is a lot of good feelings of joy that is generated in me because I'm seeing him after a long time. And but you may not even notice him. He is a stranger for you. So, the feelings that you and I have are clearly different. And if they were the property of the object, the friend or the stranger, then, like the sound coming from these speakers, we would all feel it the same. But, so, when the inner feelings that are generated in me are a function of my own mind, which is why I have them and you don't. So we can agree that such feelings across people are a function of the observing mind rather than the object. And you can use any example to test this. The other way to look at it is across different times. The same object across different times. So I'll give you an example which comes to mind is, I really like this particular kind of burger at this grilled burger store, which is with this impossible patty, the meat substitute patty. So I really like it, and on many occasions I've gone and enjoyed having that burger. And the last time I was there, I was a bit anxious. So, in fact, it was the time when I was told that I was asked to do this Monday night presentations, and I was worried that I will really not a good job of it. So I was anxious, and I didn't even notice the taste of what I was eating. It was the same recipe. It was the same restaurant. We could say that it was the same burger. But my experience while eating it was totally different because of my mental state. So, to me, these examples illustrate how the second kind of happiness, the deeper satisfaction that derives from our own mental state, might actually be possible, and how it might work. So, to me, these examples, and I encourage you to think about this in relation to your own experience. Give it some time to think about it as to how your experience of things is a function of your own state of mind. So, is there an absolute experience out there? Does that sensory stimulus always produce that kind of a result? If not, why not? What changes? So to me, this illustrates that our relationship with our external world is mediated by our minds. It is a lens through which we see everything else. So the quality of this lens, the clarity of this lens, defines all our experiences. So, it brings me to the next part of this presentation, is to where should we be looking for this happiness. So, if you have had an idea of this happiness, which is governed by our own mind, so where should we be looking for it? And again, I'll quote His Holiness, and he's put it out across very nicely. He says, the key to human happiness lies in our own state of mind, and so too do the primary obstacles to our happiness. It's really put it very nicely together. So, as I mentioned, I spend most of my time looking for happiness in the external world, in the sensory experiences. But from a Buddhist point of view, our mind is the key to our happiness. And we need to look inward to find this happiness. So, what does it mean to look inwards? Where do we look for this happiness? Where does it exist? So that gets us to the question of what is mind? What is inside? So, in Buddhism, from a Buddhist perspective, mind is defined as clear and knowing. That's the basic definition of mind. It's clear and it's knowing. So, clarity of the mind is the aspect of the mind. It's like a mirror which allows an object to appear. And the knowing nature of the mind is its ability to cognize that object. So sometimes an analogy of sky is used to understand this. So if we look at the clear nature of mind is like the clear sky, which has the spaciousness to allow any object of cognition to arise in it. It can allow anything to arise in it because it's clear. And the knowing nature of the mind is its ability to cognize any object that arises in it. So, by its nature, the sky is always unobscured. There is no. It's always clear. The thoughts that arise in our mind can be likened to clouds. So when the clouds arise, they obscure our mind until they are swept away by the wind. So it is the same with our mind from a Buddhist point of view. The basic nature of our mind is pure, and the thoughts that arise are like clouds. They are temporary and not in with the nature of mind. I think I'm probably speaking too quickly here. We might have to put some of this to the next session. So I will not have the time to finish this part of presentation. But it's good to think about this definition of mind as to how its nature is clear. It is not something, it's neutral. And the thoughts that they arise in it basically provide, let me use an example. So, when you look at the primary nature of the mind, think about it as colorless water. And this neutral nature of mind is always accompanied by a feeling, by an emotion, which in Buddhism are called mental factors. So feelings such as love, compassion, patience, concentration, anger, attachment, jealousy, they're all mental factors. This primary clear mind is always accompanied by a mental factor, always accompanied by a feeling. So you can take an example of mind as water, clear water, and all these feelings that arise in our mind, we can liken them to ink. You put a drop of ink in the water, and the entire water takes the color of the ink till it settles down. The same is the case with our mind. The primary mind is completely neutral, completely spacious, but it is always accompanied by a mental factor from which it draws energy, and it becomes that for that period of time. So this gives us a possibility, incredible possibility, to think about that our mind is not fixed. It's changing, it's impermanent, and therefore we are not saddled with something that we can't work with. So if we look at our own experience and we think about, the mental factor of love or compassion, when it arises in our mind, when the primary consciousness is colored by love or compassion, how do we feel? What is the feeling we get at that particular point in time? And when we think about a time when anger was dominant, how do we feel? So which of the mind feels happier? And which of the mind did we enjoy more? So by understanding that mind is not fixed, it's impermanent, it takes the color of the feelings that arise in it, gives us the possibility of working with our minds and cultivating the states of mind which lead to happiness, and slowly diminishing or reducing or eliminating the states of mind which causes restlessness or unease or unhappiness. So these mental factors, there's a lot of discussion in Buddhism about them, and I'll discuss it again in the next, because I didn't get much time to elaborate on it. But there's a lot of discussion on this. But for our purpose today, we can see that there are certain emotions when they arise, we feel happy, and there are other emotions when they arise, we don't feel happy. So the ones that are beneficial to our mind are called the virtuous states of mind. Because they're called virtuous because they're beneficial. And they're beneficial for our own state of mind or our own genuine happiness. And those factors, when they arise, when they upset us or they create turmoil, they're called non-virtuous. The definition of between virtuous and non-virtuous is basically beneficial or not beneficial to our own genuine happiness. So, if we could potentially train ourselves, train our minds that for the positive states of mind to arise, if we could have that control somehow, we could find genuine happiness. And if we could eliminate or weaken these non-virtuous states of mind or non-beneficial states of mind, if we had the control over that, we could avoid suffering. So, in Buddhism, this method to deepen and strengthen the positive states of mind leads to happiness, and weakening or eliminating the negative states of mind leads to less suffering. So, from a Buddhist point of view, this exercise, this practice becomes our spiritual path. So, we spend years of practice in trying to understand how our mind works and what we can do to increase these virtuous states or beneficial states of mind, and how we can reduce or weaken or eliminate the non-virtuous or non-beneficial states of mind. So I think I might stop here for this evening. Sorry, I'm running a bit over time and I had to condense the last part of my presentation a bit, and I will come back to it next time. So this evening what we have discussed is that we all want happiness and deserve happiness. We tend to focus on sensory pleasures based on external stimuli, and from a Buddhist point of view, this is misplaced focus. By looking internally and strengthening the positive states of mind, we can find deeper and secure happiness. I haven't left a lot of time for questions, but is anything that comes to mind? So next week we'll discuss this last part again, and we'll focus on the obstacles to finding genuine happiness, and we'll particularly talk more about these internal states of mind that can stop us from finding genuine happiness, and that would be something that we'll discuss next week. So I would like to invite you to dedicate the time and effort that you put in here for the past hour or so. So sit in a comfortable position again. Think back to the initial motivation that you set for yourself at the start of the session. Generate a strong wish that any beneficial outcome from the past 60 minutes, anything you have thought about, the time you have spent contemplating, your presence here, may it become a cause for you to achieve your motivation. May it be of benefit to you and those around you. Thank you all for coming. I will stay around for a little while if you'd like to discuss anything. Otherwise, I hope to see you next Monday. Good night.